And good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here at Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm on time this morning. I'm so glad my technology is working. Hopefully, everything will continue to work the way it is supposed to. So, there's a lot going on. I know everybody's waking up just either you're feeling exhausted or exhilarated or maybe a little bit of both. So there were some strikes that happened. The words on the street that they want to impeach Donald Trump over the strikes, but it's like, seriously, as many strikes as Obama had. And let's not forget about Libya. Muammar Gaddafi, he wanted to actually free his people and give them wealth. And then shortly after that, his country was toppled and now it is in disarray. And that was at the hands of the United States, by the way. Just saying, that happened. And it happened under Obama. And Hillary Clinton sat and laughed about it. No, there are people that have a lot of money, and that's where their treasure is. It's in money. It's not in God. And, that's where their hope and their faith reside as well. So before we get into the news, I was able to find a clip regarding Ezekiel 38. And I really wanted to play this clip in particular because it's not too long. It's under 3 minutes, but it does give an overview of where we are right now. And, with it, it also gives a little bit of hope as well. So I wanted to go ahead and play that.
38 says, the word of the Lord came to me saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog in the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Russia, Meshech and Tubal, that prophesy against him and say, thus says the Lord God, behold, I am what? I'm against you. God says to the enemies that is going to come, I'm against you. In other words, it's not going to end up good for you. Oh Gog, the prince of Rosh, he says, I will turn you around and put hooks in your jaws and lead you out with all your armies, horses, horsemen. Look what he says. He continues, says, not only you, it's going to be Persia. Persia is the name of Iran of today. That's the biblical name. Ethiopia is the name of what probably Sudan is today. We're not sure because it's right there, Sudan and Ethiopia area. And then Libya, he says, and are with them, and all of them with the shield and helmet. Gomer and all of its troops, the house of Togarmah. These are the ancient biblical names of Turkey of today. Many people are with you. You're looking and you're seeing a whole formation of nations that is coming together for an invasion into Israel. So we see there's the rise of this Ezekiel 38 coalition. But how many of you read the full chapter? How many of you know the end of that coalition? You see, everybody is, they're going to be defeated. But who is going to defeat them? You see, it's not going to be Israel. It's not going to be the Israeli prime minister, the Israeli generals, the Israeli military. Not even a single time it says that Israel will use its best weapon and thus will obliterate their. No, God will have to intervene. And the greatest thing of all, God will intervene in a supernatural way. So no one will even be a little bit confused about who is running the show. Earthquakes, brimstones coming from, that's not a weapon Israel developed.
Yeah, so I just wanted to play that just to give us a little bit of encouragement, because I think a lot of people right now, when we look at one another, we can get angry, we can get upset, we can get mad at our government, but a lot of times we forget about God in the grander scheme of things, and God is in control of all of this. I do read you guys the news from the left, right, and center, but at the end of the day, God is in control. And That's what gives me peace. It should give you peace. And if you're not at peace, then I definitely suggest you, taking the time to get right with God. Now, a lot of people might get offended by that, and that's okay. That's okay. But where is your life? Why are you unsettled? Why aren't you walking in peace? Maybe because your life isn't right with your creator. And that happens to be God. And so it's coming to that time, I should say, in our world where decisions have to be made. And everybody's got to make that personal decision. Who are you going to walk with? Not who you're going to side with. Who are you going to walk with? Right? Because when you decide to follow God, it is a walk, it's a journey, and it's definitely a marathon. It's not a sprint, but it is a walk. It is a daily taking up your cross. It is a daily, studying His Word. And it's not a burden, it's a joy. And I think that's the one thing that we forget as Christians to realize, that there is a joy in walking with God, and a peace in walking with God, where you don't have to be upset and all bent out of shape. So let me go ahead and, add all sides to the sage. My favorite place to get the news now. So it says Israel accuses Iran of breaking ceasefire, order strikes on Tehran. Now, if anybody was following the news yesterday, Trump had actually gotten Iran to a ceasefire, and then Israel struck. So I'm trying to figure out what happened. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. That's confusing because it kind of happened in real time. So I don't know what Israel is talking about and how they're accusing Iran of breaking the ceasefire when they broke the ceasefire. So very interesting. So it says Israel has accused of Iran of launching 2 missiles into its airspace and ordered its military to respond forcefully by launching strikes at targets in Tehran. So Israel's defense minister Defense Minister Israel Katz said, in light of Iran's blatant violation of the ceasefire declared by the President of the United States through the launch of missiles towards Israel, and in accordance with the Israeli government's policy to respond forcefully to any breach, I have instructed the IDF to continue high-intensity operations targeting regime assets and terror infrastructure in Tehran. So President Trump announced the two nations had agreed to a ceasefire on Monday night, though Iran's foreign minister wrote on X that there would be no ceasefire or cessation of military operations until Israel proved it was stopping its illegal aggression at 4 a.m., the time the ceasefire was set to begin. So, like I said, they've both been going back and forth with each other. So hopefully they will get to a ceasefire. So this is how the media covered it. The Associated Press on the left highlighted in its headline that the ceasefire was Trump's doing and wrote Trump's ceasefire plan falters in the text. It described the ceasefire as shaky, and Reuters, which is center, framed the headline in coverage by saying Israel accused Iran of breaking the ceasefire and didn't definitively say if the ceasefire held or not. The Telegraph, that leans right, led its headline and coverage by saying Iran violated the ceasefire, not immediately highlighting that it was an accusation coming from Israel. Because, like I said, maybe I'm confused, but I was listening to the news yesterday, and there was a lot of news where there was a ceasefire and then Israel reacted. But could that have been because Iran had reacted, and the ceasefire was, in between those movements happening, right? This this is really intense what's happening. And in the opening video, at the end of all of this, God is still in control. I don't care what these guys do. I don't care what they do. I really pray that people aren't injured, you know what I'm saying? And we do not have any civilian casualties over this. But at the end of all of this, God is still in control. God still is over this. No matter what any of these individuals do, God is still on the throne. I guess that's the part that always interests me, right? It's like no matter what you do, God is still gonna do what he wants to do. So it says US attacks Iran, backing Israel's Rising Lion mission. The U.S. struck Iranian nuclear sites over the weekend. Do you support this American involvement? And so we've got someone in the center talking about the U.S. bombing. And then our troops have saved the world again. That's someone on the right. And then diplomacy, not bombing, will bring peace with Iran. And then, a lot of people have talked about the bombing in Iran. And it's been one of those things. They've been threatened for a long time, and no one's really moved the needle as much. But I find it interesting that all this stuff is happening, and now we have someone in the latest mayoral poll for New York. So, Mamdani overtakes Cuomo in latest NYC mayoral primary poll. A recent poll shows a surprising surge of support for Zohran Mamdani, overtaking former Andrew Cuomo. I think anybody could overtake Andrew Cuomo at this point. I mean, he had to step down from governor because of the antics that were going on with him. I don't know why he's even running for mayor. It's crazy. So the Emerson College polling, the Hills revealed that Mamdani surpassed Cuomo in the 8th round of the simulated ranked choice voting, 51.8% to 48%. The poll conducted between June 18th through the 20th and showed that Mamdani's support has surged from 1% to 32% over 5 months. Cuomo, on the other hand, finished near where he began. This shift is this was reflected on Polymarket, a cryptocurrency-based prediction market headquartered in New York City, which suggests Mamdani is ahead in an average of polls. I'm going to stop there real quick. Now, do realize that both of these individuals support illegal immigration. So if you were in the New York area, don't vote for either one of them. I'm telling you now, they support illegal immigration. They want ICE abolished, by the way, and they're okay with spending American tax dollars on people that are here illegally. That's where they're at. They've said it. They're okay with it, and they do not want to protect New York citizens. So if you want, continued, like basically continue to be overrun with illegals, vote this person in, because that's what they're about. That's what they're about. You can look him up. I'll let it speak for itself. Maybe I'll find a video or two that I can play for you guys. But yes, he is all about illegal immigration, and so is Cuomo. Now, we do have someone from the Redemption Party that's running. Her name is Michonne. I'm hopefully going to have her here on the show so you guys can meet her and we can do some fundraising for her. But New York definitely needs somebody else in the mayoral seat besides either one of these candidates. So New York's ranked choice voting system allows a voter's other picks to still be in the mix and emerge as the eventual overall winner if the first choice is eliminated in successive rounds of calculations. So Mamdani's surge in the poll is credited to City Comptroller Brad Lander's voters who switched to Mamdani over Cuomo in the eighth round after Lander was eliminated with 20% of the vote. This is the third time New York City has used ranked choice voting in its local primaries. So this is how the media covered it. So New York Post, that leans right biased, highlighted the surge of Mamdani's compared to Cuomo over 5 months. It also included a performance comparison between the leading candidates among different demographics and other polls that showed Cuomo winning, but Mamdani closing ground. So Newsweek, whose center highlighted Mamdani's increased chances of beating Cuomo and included quotes from public and political figures discussing the political shift among voters. Politico, that leans left, provided an analysis of the campaign finance data showing progressive voters' strategy of supporting multiple left leaning candidates to deny Cuomo the Democratic primary and avoid incumbent Mayor Eric Adams. Yeah, I don't think he's done. He's scorched earth. Cuomo, he never really had a shot. I don't even know why he's here. But this Mom Dani person, just understand he supports illegal immigrants and he wants to abolish ICE. So I just want to put that out there because that's what he supports. He does not care about America. He does not care about New York, period. He doesn't care. They don't care. Like, I think there was something that, I'm not sure if it was him or if it was another mayoral candidate, and they were trying to um, help somebody evade ICE. But it was a trial that happened. They were in the courtroom. ICE was trying to escort this person out, and they were literally trying to stop him. I don't think it was Mom Dunny, but I think it was another one. It was probably the guy that other person was running against him to give their votes. What are you doing? Why are you supporting this? But again, he supports illegal activity. So if you want more of your money in New York spent on illegal immigrants, vote for this guy because that's what he's about. He does not care about New Yorkers that are Americans. He doesn't. So if you want more of the same, go ahead because that's what you're going to get. You're going to get somebody who does not care about American citizens, period. Does not care. Doesn't. So, yeah, see how, like, he announced the ceasefire, but then we're at we're still launching missiles. It's crazy. Yep. So Iran launched a missile attack on US base in Qatar. Now this happened kind of all in the mix of everything else happening. Like it's one of those things, there's wars and rumors of wars. Like that's where we're at. Now them Qatar, what? I mean, Qatar is one of the safer places for people to be. You know, I have a cousin that um, is in Qatar that lived there, and it's pronounced Qatar, by the way. People keep calling it, I think, Qatar. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's pronounced Qatar. Like a lot of people have, like I said, I know somebody that lived there like for a minute and it's pronounced Qatar. It's not pronounced Qatar. So I need Fox News to get that note because you sound weird. So Iran launched a missile attack on the U.S.-run coalition air operations center at AI Udeid in Qatar on Monday. The attack was reportedly intercepted by the Qatar Defense Ministry, and there was no reported casualties, and that's good. I'm glad because there are a lot of American citizens. Excuse me. that live on, near that base. So the details, Iran's Supreme National Security Council said in a statement that the number of missiles used were the same number as bombs the US used on 3 Iranian nuclear sites. The council asserted that the attacks were directed at the US government and not Qatar, though the Qatari government condemned it as a violation worthy of response. According to the New York Times, that's left anonymous Iranian officials familiar with the plans said that Iran gave advance notice that attacks were coming as a way to minimize casualties. The official said Iran symbolically needed to strike back at the U.S., but at the same time carry it out in a way that allowed all sides an exit ramp. And it's like, look, first of all, Iran, stop. This just needs to stop. You're not stronger than the U.S. You're not stronger than Israel. Capitulate. I'm just saying, give it up, bro. This is not going to go well for you if you keep on doing this. Oh, I got a message from Dr. C. Hey, good morning, Dr. C. She says, Mom Denis is a dusty who needs to go forward to India or wherever he's from. Okay, she said that. But Dr. C, do you agree with me that, and this is a prior thing we were talking about, guys, we'll get back to Qatar in a minute. Do you agree that he running on the platform to support illegal immigration and supporting abolishing ICE, is that a good platform for him to run on, right? I mean, obviously he is, the descendant of possible immigrants in New York, but I'm pretty sure his people did it the right way. I'm pretty sure they're not here illegally, at least I would hope not. But do you think it's right for him to, run on this platform of illegal immigration when we have ICE doing so many deportations? So I'll let you sit with that and, just give me your response when you can. So, back to this going on in Qatar. It says the U.S. conducted airstrikes on 3 Iranian nuclear strikes on Saturday, officially engaging the two countries in active combat. The strikes came a day after the Iranian government warned the U.S. that all necessary options were on the table. U.S. federal agencies began warning of potential Iranian sleeper cells in the U.S. just hours before the Iranian launch on Monday. The attack came despite reports last week that the country was running out of missile launchers. So this is how the media covered it. Initial coverage was similar across the political spectrum, with many outlets providing live and direct updates on the conflict. So, yeah, everybody's covering it the same way, but the parts are moving so fast. I think that's where people are like kind of getting whiplash. It's like, wait a minute, I thought we were at a ceasefire. Why are they firing missiles on each other? Okay, so Dr. C says, heck no, he should be deported for interfering with U.S. legal activity. Well, hey, here's the thing about naturalization that I don't think people realize, and even with with your naturalized citizenship, okay, that people don't realize. It's like when you get that, you still have to be, you know what I'm saying, like above board with your citizenship, because that stuff can be revoked and denied. Like, I don't think people realize that. Now, it wasn't funny, but of course I came across a few videos and people were like, well, Black Americans can be deported too. No, we can't. We can't. Not the Negroes. Okay, the Negroes cannot be deported because we were stolen from someplace, right? But once we were here, we're here, and we're American citizens, and we're American citizens written into the Constitution. Like, we are one of the few people actually written into the Constitution and actually have amendments specifically for us. Okay. And a lot of people don't realize that. They just think, okay, yeah, all Black people are the same. No, we're not all the same. Sorry. There are melanated people, okay, that they are from different parts of the world. And just because they have dark skin does not make them a Black Negro American. Just doesn't. And Negro and Black actually mean the same thing, translated. Just saying. So I'm overstating the point. But yeah, I'm a Negro American from the soil. Like, I'm not going anywhere, but a whole bunch of y'all are. And that's another point that I wanted to make. And I don't know if anybody else out there is seeing this, it's the face of deportation. Now, I know a lot of people might say, yeah, that's kind of weird, but they are predominantly only showing people of Latin descent that are being deported. Now, here in Georgia, they actually raided some type of place, and they were all Asian that were here illegally. And ICE went up to Marietta and got them, and they are no longer here. So it's happening here in Georgia as well. But like I said, they were Asian. I'm like, there are more than just Latin people being deported off of the soil. So I need people to remember that when we're, going through and seeing what's happening out here. But to the other point, and I know this might sound strange, it's like when you're making it the face of people that are Latin, we got to remember all of these people aren't Mexican. All these people aren't from Mexico, even though you see a lot of Mexican flags being waved. And I think they're okay. Let me add myself to the stage. Sorry about that, guys. Um, Stream got a little bit interrupted, but I'm back. So thanks for hanging in there with me. We are going to take a little bit of a break, and we're going to get back to the news, especially, the different strikes going on in Iran. But yeah, I want to put that question out there to you guys. What do you think about who they're making the face of deportation, right? Are there more than just people of Latin descent being deported? And why isn't the news showing that? Right? It's almost like when they only show conflicts between Black and white people. It's like, okay, there's more than Black and white people throughout the United States. Why are you only just showing these two specific groups? Is that to cause, emotional grievance so that Black people and white people are fighting against one another? Like I said, in this instance, the face of deportation has become people of Latin descent. So again, we will take a quick break, and I will see you guys on the other side.
At All Sides, we give bias ratings for hundreds of media outlets. By freeing people from filter bubbles and providing different perspectives, we can all be better equipped to understand the world and each other. So how do we do it?
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And I wanted to look at the NATO summit. And this summit is going to be happening today and tomorrow. Okay, I got to get my screen set back up because for some reason it just decided to go out. I can't even tell you the why. It just, did its thing. So here we are. Thanks for hanging. So I wanted to take a look to see, like what's going on with the NATO summit, because this is something that does happen every year. I'll say right around the summertime. It's after the Bilderberg group. The Bilderberg group, they kind of changed their stuff around. They happen anywhere between, like, I would say March, May ish. Um, but the NATO summit happens every year, and it says leaders convene 2024, June 24th to 25th, to discuss spending, Iran Israel tensions, and security pledges, including decisions from new NATO security general. So I found a few articles on this. So a security spending spree. I found that interesting news for today in regards to the summit happening in Hague. So here we go. Oh, it might be behind a paywall, so we'll have to do the short version. This morning, I'm Louise Moon from Bloomberg's Breaking News team, bringing you up to speed to today's business news ahead of jetting off to the annual summit in Hague. Starmer has vowed to adopt the alliance's new goals and spend 5% of GDP on defense by 2035. Let's see how much of the story we can get and read before I get that wonderful pop-up. Yeah. All right. Nope, not doing it. Okay, so interesting that they want to do that. Okay. But another story that we can get into, and like right after I'll see the comments. Oh, good morning, Jay Smooth. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on YouTube. So it says both parties are to blame for political violence. Yeah, I want to look into this because, we do see a lot of the political violence from, as they say, the left or people that are liberal, right? But do we ever see any of that on the Republican side? So this is from the center. It says, I want you to imagine a country where politicians are targets. Imagine someone being attacked in an act of violence due to a difference of opinion. Which countries come to mind? Putin's Russia, Myanmar, North Korea, and Belarus. Are easy answers. Understandably, our minds would immediately wander there. Unfortunately, this also applies to the United States in 2025. I don't disagree. In fact, our country is so polarized that these horrendous acts of violence are often quickly forgotten as the news cycle continues to move at a breakneck pace in a seemingly shameless manner. Remember 2022, when Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh was the target of a planned assassination attempt, or when Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi's husband was viciously attacked by a deranged man in his home that same year. Flashback to this past July and the nearly assassination of President Donald Trump in Pennsylvania. The fact that we were only a few millimeters from the bullet of one man vetoing the vote of millions of Americans underscores just how tense our politics are today. I'm going to stop right there. And I think the reason why our politics are so tense is because, unfortunately, our news media is very insightful. They use different words and language that actually stir up so much emotion in individuals that they truly want to attack because they feel that they are being attacked, right? I don't know if anybody remembers it, but with certain communities, they would say, oh yeah, there are certain, right-wing people. First of all, you're calling people right-wing as opposed to, or even conservative. These words invoke emotion negatively, not positively, but negatively, right? And they'll do that word association and say, they want to take away all of your rights. They want you killed. They want this, they want that. Well, do they? Well, where is that stated? What article is that coming from? Who's saying these things? You never get that type of information, but you do get a lot of rhetoric. And that's what this is, but they're allowed to do it under the Smith Modernization Act. So to see an article like this, yeah, I get where all of the emotion is coming from. It's coming from a place where they're actually allowed to do this. And now that we're here, people are like, why is everybody so angry and upset? People are angry and upset because it's been allowed. They're not being told the news. They are being told things that stir their emotions. It's kind of like if it bleeds, it leads. But that's how all of our news is given to us. If it does not stir or invoke emotions, people technically don't want to hear it. And that's the problem with what's going on. And in my opinion, you can definitely tell the truth. And however people walk away from it, that's how they walk away from it. But that's what we should be doing, as curators of the news. That's what should be happening. So I also saw this. It says Francis Macron holds Norway talks on eve of NATO summit. So this is President Macron in France. And unfortunately, a lot of people that don't really care for him, And thank you, Dr. C, for reposting the stream and everybody that's listening in today. So it says Francis Macron holds Norway talks on eve of NATO summit. All right. Let me see. Hopefully it's not behind the paywall. President Emmanuel Macron held talks Monday with Norwegian officials during a brief trip on the eve of a crucial NATO summit as tensions rise in the resource-rich Arctic region. Last week, the French leader paid a visit to Greenland, where he criticized U.S. counterpart Donald Trump for threatening to annex the Danish territory. So during the Norway trip, Macron's office said he would once again underline France's commitment to the Nordic and Arctic region, particularly with security. Trump has repeatedly said America needs to take Greenland for security reasons, and he has refused to rule out the use of force. Trump's threats to annex the territory of a NATO ally are likely to make for tricky talks as leaders of the 32 members gather in the Hague for the two-day meeting starting Tuesday. The flagship announcement will be an agreement pushed by Trump for all members to boost defense spending to 5%. Most NATO members see Russia as their greatest threat as the war rages in Ukraine, but Trump has long cozied up to Vladimir Putin. So I can tell that this is definitely something. It doesn't seem like it leans. It's centered. Interesting. Because usually the left will use words like cozying up to Putin. But I'll stop there. But yeah, these are some of the things that they want to, increase the defense spending to 5%. People aren't happy that Trump wants to, make Greenland a part of the American territories. They're not happy with anything that man does. It's sad, in my opinion. It's just like, okay, no matter what he does, none of you are going to be happy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're going to be upset. You're not going to be happy. He could cure cancer tomorrow. You would still find a way to be like, nope, cancer. That's not good enough. We need something else. I mean, like that's who y'all are. You just it's who you are. It's crazy. It's crazy. So Zelensky assassination plot foiled. What is he doing now? Like, bro, I need you to just stop. Zelensky needs to stop. Whoever is talking to him, it needs to end. It says Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky was the target. Oh, he was the target of an assassination plot to be carried out by a Polish pensioner who had first been recruited by the Soviet Union decades ago. The head of the country's internal security agency said Lieutenant General Vasyl Malak, head of Ukraine's SBU, the main internal security agency of the Ukrainian government, detailed the plot in a closed briefing with Ukrainian media. The suspect had now been indicted in Poland. Okay. I'm like, but why would somebody want to take him out? I don't think the people want him back. And the only reason the people have had to, have him in is because of the conflict with Russia. But once that conflict settles down, he can be voted out. He doesn't necessarily have to be there. So, okay. So it's one of those things. All right. So I guess that's what we're doing there. Okay. And this was another thing that people should definitely be aware of, that the State Department issues travel warnings, evacuations amid U.S. strikes in Iran, right? There are family members and non-emergency U.S. government personnel were ordered by the State Department to leave Lebanon on Sunday, June 22nd, after 3 nuclear sites in Iran were attacked by the U.S. military on Saturday. State Department officials cited the volatile and unpredictable security situation in the region as the reason for the alert. In addition, travel warnings were issued for Saudi Arabia and Turkey. The U.S. mission in Saudi Arabia was advised to exercise increased caution and limit non-essential travel to any military installations, and the same recommendation was given to U.S. citizens. And this is definitely going to be tricky because a lot of people are traveling right now. There are a lot of people doing different things in the region, and I'm really praying for them that they don't get caught up in the crossfire of what's going on. Right. So let's see. The Department of Homeland Security said there's a heightened threat environment, low-level cyber attacks, U.S. networks by pro-Iranian hacktivists, interesting, are likely, a bulletin said. Interesting. I haven't heard the word hacktivist. There's activists, but they call them hacktivists, right? Running around, I guess, terrorizing people with their cyber information. So in addition, the travel warnings were issued for Saudi Arabia and Turkey. The U.S. mission to Saudi Arabia was advised to exercise increased caution and limit non-essential travel to any military installations. And the same recommendation was given to U.S. citizens in the kingdom as well. Mission staffing and operations remain the same, and consular services are continuing. The State Department said government personnel in Turkey should keep a low profile and avoid personal travel to the U.S. consulate in Adana. Yeah, so it's just like people need to be safe, but I know not necessarily directly there in Turkey, but I do cruise with my family, and I know they do have a lot of international cruises that go in and out of that area. So I'm definitely, praying for those individuals that, they got their money back if something happened like this, or they're just keeping safe and they're avoiding this region for right now. It's really sad what's happening and what's going on in our world with uh, with these conflicts. It's like I want to cover the news, but it's all about the war right now. It's like, is anything else going on in the world? I'm just saying there are other things that we could look at. I did see an article though on, yeah, I found this fascinating. The FDA and the CDC advisors say lost pregnancies are higher than expected following early mRNA vaccination. So, President Trump's second term agenda has been careful not to cast doubt on his signature first term achievement, the development of COVID-19 vaccines through Operation Warp Speed, which congressional Republicans continue to laud and even claim was sabotaged by Pfizer to deny Trump a consecutive term despite his base soaring on the therapeutics. So here's the thing with the whole COVID-19 thing. Trump won to get it. But if you want it, it's available to you, right? I think the downside is Pfizer, the adverse reactions that people could have had. So people didn't really have full informed consent, right? So that means people were making decisions out of fear, but they really weren't making decisions out of, okay, here are all of the risks set before me before I actually get this. And there were people that were injured that took it. I do have some family members that, initially they weren't injured, but, a few relatives I do have that had cancer that was in remission. They now have cancer again. It's full blown, so I don't know how much longer they're going to be with me. Had some other individuals that did suffer some other adverse reactions, had some other people that actually did pass away after taking it. So it wasn't something that I think, President Trump actually knew intently, but a lot of people didn't because it was rushed so quickly. And that was the concern about a lot of people, right? They were just saying, we're kind of rushing into this. I understand that if we want to get it, we can get it, but we can hold off. And for the people that held off, right, they're still here with us. But now what's going on with this? And they're saying, there's lost pregnancies that are higher than expected following early mRNA vaccine. What's happening with the pharmaceutical companies, I think, is far beyond Trump in the sense that now these companies legitimately need to answer to Congress, right? They really do, because were you presenting, something that you knew would hurt the general public? And if so, then you're not going to have this emergency use authorization. And that's my question. Are they still protected under the EUA, or is the EUA gone? Right? I'll have to look into that, because technically under Biden, it was just like, nope, there's no more threat of emergency. We're good. But the EUA was never removed. So are we still under emergency use authorization? Are these, mRNA vaccines still being produced with that cover. Because if they are, that needs to stop. You know, you had the cover so that you could produce these shots in a quick and a fast way, right? Warp speed. Got it. But you did it at the expense of lives. Did you know that people were going to die from this? Because there is a list from Pfizer, and it lists all of the adverse reactions, and death is one of them. It just death. You could just die if you take the shot. Did people know that before they took this? Did people know that they would suffer miscarriages? Did people know that they would suffer Bell's palsy? Did people know? Did they have informed consent? That's the overarching question. So, lower than expected pregnancy loss following flu vaccines. However, HHS wants 18-month hold on FOIA litigation related to vaccines, including for COVID, litigants' lawyer says. So President Trump's second term agenda has been careful not to cast doubt on his signature first term achievement, the development of COVID-19 vaccines through Operation Warp Speed, which congressional Republicans continued to laud and even claim was sabotaged by Pfizer to deny Trump a consecutive term, despite his base soaring on the therapeutics. A new preprint study on mRNA COVID vaccines in early pregnancy, co-authored by top advisors to Trump's Food and Drug Administration and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, may fuel the splintering of the Make America Healthy Again movement as the jab's opponents ramp up pressure on Health and Human Services Secretary R.F. Kennedy to ban them. Yeah, because people, like I said, people got very injured behind this warp speed thing. Not yet peer-reviewed, the study analyzed hundreds of thousands of Israeli medical records on pregnant women in the 3 years before and after SARS-CoV-2 emerged in China, finding 43% more observed to expected fetal losses per 100 pregnancies, and 13 instead of 9 when the first mRNA dose is taken between 8 to 13 weeks of pregnancy. Now, this is a trip. Now, when I was pregnant, we couldn't take anything. We couldn't take aspirin. We couldn't take anything, period. Even if you got a cold while you were pregnant, it was like, you better find some chicken soup and tea and work it out. Because anything that you ingest goes right to the fetus. And they didn't want you suffering, birth defects, mental effects, whatever. You just didn't take anything. They are giving these injections to pregnant women. Like, are you for real? Are you high? Like, I think this is ridiculous. It says pregnant women who took a booster between 8 and 13 weeks lost an additional 2 pregnancies per 100, a potential dose response relationship. So not only did they miscarry their first pregnancy, if they got pregnant again, they just automatically miscarried. What are we doing? It does need to be banned. I mean, that's it should have been banned from the beginning. I wasn't a fan. I didn't like it. It says by using pregnant women who got flu vaccines between 8 and 27 weeks and women who received either vaccine before their pregnancy was comparative controls. The authors said they were able to show the association is unique to COVID vaccines. The former had a consistently lower than expected observed number of fetal losses, likely to result of healthy vaccine bias, in which people with overall better health tend to have higher vaccination rates, while the latter, according to expected or lower than expected number of fetal losses, the study found. It said almost all mRNA doses were made by Pfizer, whose own 2021 report to the FDA, which the agency hid for 16 months until a court made it public, shows 44% of women in Pfizer's clinical trial lost their pregnancies. Why were you hiding the information if you were so proud of it? These people made billions of dollars. When I say billions of dollars, they made billions of dollars because, see, they used our tax dollars to pay these people to make these vaccines. So it wasn't like they made them and then the general public bought them. And, no, our money was given to Pfizer, to Moderna, right? Merck didn't do it. Merck tapped out, even though they make vaccines. Johnson & Johnson, that was the one and done shot. They took that one off the market, even though people didn't suffer any adverse reactions with those. Why did you take Johnson & Johnson off the market if it was effective? That's because it was effective. That's why they took it off the market. So you're down to Pfizer, you're down to Moderna. I would like to see what Moderna was doing because everybody keeps putting this off on Pfizer, but then again, Pfizer got most of the money, right? Pfizer was out there, promoting and had all the, and they still do. They still do have a advertising campaign going on out here. But you can see it shows 44% of women lost their pregnancies and they hid. Why were you hiding this information? That's all I'm saying. It's one of those things. Why are you hiding this stuff? If you're proud of it, if it's working, you shouldn't be hiding it. You shouldn't be hiding it. Not at all. All right, you guys. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to, definitely check out some more news here on this Tell It All Tuesday. So I'll see you guys on the other side.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity. At exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
I thought I was going to sneeze. I did not want to sneeze in the microphone because that's kind of rude. So we got a few more people that joined us. Thank you so much for joining us, Jamal. And Jamal wanted to share that he actually got the Moderna shot once. Okay, I'm glad you're doing okay. There are some people in my life that got it and they had to get boosters in order to work. And that was in the entertainment industry. And the crazy part about it is now they don't require anybody to have a shot anymore. Work in entertainment. They dropped the whole thing. And that was my whole thing that made me upset was it's like you demanded everybody get this and people got it, wanted to keep other people safe, wanted to keep themselves safe. And then all of a sudden it was just like, oh, they're just not going to do it anymore. Nope, we're not doing it. We're getting heat. What? You flipped the whole planet upside down. Literally. We were in our houses. Y'all was just doing all kind of crazy stuff. I mean, people were warring against each other. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask, be together, be 6 feet apart. Like, it was insane. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, we're just not doing that anymore. Wow. Okay. And that's in, I don't know if it happened like that for anybody else, but that's how I saw it. It just stopped. Just stopped. Just it ended. And no one said anything else. Nobody said that they were sorry. No one apologized. And I still see people walking around with masks now. Not sure what that's about, because especially when you're outside, I'm like, we're outside. Okay, I can get it if you're in a store, or maybe those people aren't just feeling well and they have masks on, but it's just, yeah, I'm good. If I'm not feeling well, I just stay home. Yeah, I just kind of, keep to myself till I'm feeling better. That's usually the best rule of thumb. It worked when I was growing up. So I wanted to check this out. It says tracking controversial deportations and detainments under the Trump administration. Now, I don't know what's controversial about the deportations and detainments, because according to ICE, before I get into this, according to ICE, you know, a lot of these people that have been removed have already gotten a due process. They went through trial and they just decided they weren't going to leave the United States. That's why they're being removed. So that's one thing. But Dr. C wanted to jump in and said things we have to factor in depopulation efforts. Absolutely. Absolutely. The shots were part of depopulation. And I think that's why there are some people that are Trump supporters that were upset with him about his support with Pfizer. Right. But again, in his mind, he was just like, well, I want you guys to have the choice to get it. But then after he left office, then it was this, you have to get it. Right. And there was a mandate. It was a strong ask, but it still violated the Nuremberg Code. And a lot of people didn't want to talk about the Nuremberg Code until it was convenient, until people started getting hurt, and we've yet to have these trials, but we probably won't have these trials because they actually allowed a lot of this stuff under the emergency use authorization. And that, in my opinion, was just used as a blanket to circumvent the rights of American citizens. Because it was an emergency, I could, take your rights away. And I'm going to, read through these deportations and detainments, but a lot of this emotion, I should say, behind the deportations and detainments, it's almost causing another type of crisis, right? I don't know if anybody's seen the videos of individuals in Los Angeles and just different parts of the country literally attacking ICE agents as they are trying to, arrest people that are here that are supposed to not be here. That's why they're picking them up to detain them. They're not just going out randomly finding people. Apparently, there's over 600,000 detainees that need to be removed from our country, and they're just walking around, right? That's a lot of people. You have 5,000 ICE agents, and you have 600,000 people to remove. The math is definitely not mathing. Okay. That's why they're trying to hire more ICE agents to remove these people. But these people have removal orders. That's why they're being removed. They're not just being removed willy-nilly. They're not just walking down the street. Now, we won't talk about racial profiling, will we? That happened in New York City, because it happened. Okay. And everybody all over the country saw it happen. And when it started happening to people that weren't Black people, then everybody got upset. Okay. But while it was happening to Black people, no one said a thing. No one rushed to anybody's aid. Now, there were a couple of people that spoke out about it here and there, but no, nobody said anything. And that happened. So these people being picked up because they shouldn't be here, I'm all about it. they need to go. They need to be on the first thing smoking. Well, they need due process. They already got due process. That's why they're being picked up, because they're not supposed to be here. Like, I need people to just like wrap their heads around that conversation and stop impeding ICE agents from doing their jobs. And again, hey, Christy, if you're listening, Miss DHS Secretary, you need to slam down the hammer and say, if you impede a federal agent from doing their job, it's 20 years, no parole, federal prison. And that's it. You're gone for 20 years. So if you want to stand up and yoke up to these federal officers, say 2 words to them and interrupt what they're doing, you're going straight to prison. We need to have another tactical unit, one that handles the deportations, right, for the detainees, and then another one for people going to interfere. Yeah, the people that are going to interfere, you're just going to be locked up. You can have a lawyer if you want to, but you're not going to have any parole. So do what you want to do. That's all I'm saying. 20 years, no parole, federal prison. Let's go. So All Sides is tracking the latest developments and updates on the controversial deportations and detainments under the Trump administration. See daily developments on the cases of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. That's the guy that's in, he was in El Salvador. We brought him back. It was kind of dumb. And Ramirza Ozturk, Mohammed Khalil, and others. The Department of Homeland Security and Customs Enforcement have deported or detained some individuals who arrived in the U.S. legally or held protected status, which they didn't. That's gone now. That's gone now, All Sides. It's gone. Trump removed all that. So reasons range from anti-Israel speech to alleged gang affiliations to administrative errors. Now they're calling Kilmar an administrative error. This man was deported from the country twice, was found in human trafficking, beat his wife that was here. He was removed and sent to El Salvador, which is his home country, by the way. They fussed, they hollered. Trump administration was like, okay, we'll bring him back to stand trial for the things that he's done here. He's still going to prison. It doesn't matter. He's still a criminal. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. So some are accusing the Trump administration of stifling First Amendment rights and other constitutional protections. First of all, you're here illegally. You don't have any constitutional protections. You're not a citizen. Stop picking apart the Constitution to, be there for you when you want. It's for citizens. It's not for people who are visiting. Okay. Definitely not for people that are here illegally. And that drives me nuts because they keep saying, well, it's not really illegal. Yes, it is illegal. If you're charged a civil infraction, which is a fine, you have committed a crime. Or why would you be given a civil infraction? Because it says and that or prison. Okay. See, they leave the prison part out of it when you come over here illegally. Y'all need to read that law again. Okay. And stop lying to people and telling them they have rights when they come here. They don't have any rights when they come here. The only right that they have is to go back to their home country. And if they want to be here, they need to do it the right way and respect the United States of America. So visiting America is not an entitlement, said an op-ed from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He's right. Published in April, it is a privilege extended to those who respect our laws and values. And as Secretary of State, I will never forget that. On April 30th, the Department of Homeland Security published a list of non-exhaustive list of facts to help set the record straight on numerous false and misleading stories that have spread around news coverage and social media in regards to detainments and deportations. Like I was saying earlier, it seems like the face of deportation is Latin. Please understand there's more than Latin people that crossed over illegally. There were people from Africa. There were people from China. There were people from the Netherlands. There were people from all over the world coming up through Mexico, by the way, coming into our country illegally. And because they can kind of, blend in and fit in, I'm like, these people need to be deported as well. I don't know why they're, and they more than likely they are, right? They more than likely are. We just don't see them. And that's what I'm saying. It's like the face of deportation are individuals of Latin descent. And everybody's not from Mexico. Okay. I just need to point that out. There are people from Mexico that have here legally, right? And they're law abiding, respectful citizens from Mexico. But when I see other people from maybe Venezuela or these other countries that are Latin countries from South America, and they're waving the Mexican flag, it's like, no, stop doing that. I know you are not a Mexican citizen, because they won't do that. That they don't do that. They don't play that. They don't mess around like that. So it's interesting. So Mahood Khalil gave an interview to NPR's Morning Edition describing the conditions of the ICE detention facility he was kept in, among other subjects. He spoke on June 22nd at Columbia University, protests criticizing Israel's actions in Palestine, calling the protest the beginning of a longer fight towards justice. What justice are you fighting for, sir? You're not an American citizen. We're not going with you. Look, you're visiting and you need to go back to whatever country you came from and continue your protest, but you need to stop protesting here. That's all I'm saying. I don't care where you protest. You just need to stop doing it here. I will be glad when you graduate and you return to your home country. And I hope that you are not given any type of citizenship. I hope it is revoked, because we don't need your nonsense over here. You're not bringing over anything good. You're not bringing over anything wholesome. You're just doing whatever. So, and then we have Juan Vida Leite Pinto, a Brazilian man in the process of pursuing a green card, was detained by ICE over the Memorial weekend. Okay. So I'm like, you're still not here legally. Illegal. You're still not here legally. So U.S. District Judge Orlando Garcia extended the order prohibiting the deportation of the family of Mohammed Solomon by 14 days. I wonder if that's the one. I think that's the one that did the Molotov cocktail in Colorado. I think that's him. And then Mario Guevara, a journalist from El Salvador, was arrested at a No Kings protest outside Atlanta, Georgia, for alleged obstruction of officers and unlawful assembly. Though a state judge granted Guevara release without bail, ICE requested he remain in custody because of his immigration status. Yeah, sir, if you're here illegally, and that's the unfortunate part about all of this. We have people here illegally, and it's like they're being encouraged to defy our laws, because people are telling them half truths. Like I said, yes, it is a civil infraction when you walk over the border, but it could also be punishable by jail time. So you could possibly go to jail and then have a criminal record here. And then at that point, it's not going to be easy for you to get citizenship, and you're going to be sent right back to your home country, period. So a lot of people think, okay, well, if I just walk over, maybe I'll just get the civil infraction. You're still committing a crime to get here. That's the problem. And that's the problem that a lot of people that have come here legally from other countries have with this illegal immigration. They don't want people here illegally. They did it the right way. Why in the world would they support you doing it the wrong way? And a lot of these, people I see with their camera phones out talking about ICE, take off your mask and this, that, and the other. It's like, no. Anybody here detained in the U.S., I don't feel sorry for any of these people. Not one of them. Not one of them. You know why? Because you should have made sure your paperwork was in order. If you're being detained and your work permit is not working, sir, ma'am, you can go back to your home country. Go home. This is not your home. And I stand 10 toes down to say that. Now, a lot of people might get upset about me saying that. No. Oh, well, go home. This isn't your home. It just isn't. Now, these are some people that were released on bail or bond. Does not mean that they are still citizens here. And check this out. Student visas, all y'all can go home. I don't care if you graduate. You're citizen, you should not even be allowed to apply. You can go home and you can go home too. Yep. Everybody can go home. Nope. Keep going. Self-deported. That's what I'm talking about. Go home. Go home. No one wants illegal immigration because when you do not respect the laws, it is a slippery slope. We cannot say that we are a nation of laws, but we let certain people break the laws, right? And then for other people over here that are maintaining the law, they're upholding it with their immigration status. They're looking at all the illegal people like, well, why did I, work hard to stay here legally? Why did I go through all of the hoops to do what I was supposed to do? They're not doing what they're supposed to do. It creates that conversation. And that's the problem. That is the biggest problem that we have right now in this country. I'm going to check out this one. So how to see bias in social media content. Okay. All right, I'm getting. I'll wait for my screen to come back up. Okay, let me make sure I've got it large enough. Okay. All right. So, see, spin sensationalism. It's kind of blurry. I mean, you guys can't see it, but I can a little bit. It says Kevin McCarthy just rocked. Okay, Bill Maher with 2 brutal truth torches. Okay. So just in that first sentence, using the word rocked creates spin and sensationalism, right? It said first he crushed the media's panic over Trump's economy. And then I can't see the other word. Mars down with the cold, hard numbers. Okay, stuffing. I guess that's the word, stuffing. So subject qualifiers, sensationalism. Okay, so the rest of it were like qualifiers. It says, then came a devastating prediction about 2028 that left Mars genuinely horrified. If this is the best the Democrats can offer, it's game over. Sensationalism, right? So I guess they're just looking at the ingredients of what could be deemed as bias in social media. And I think a lot of us have been able to see it. You can tell when things are very not even one-sided, they're just over the top and one-sided. So social media content typically isn't expected to be objective and balanced like traditional news. But with more and more people relying on platforms like X, Blue Sky, Facebook, and TikTok as a source for news, it's important to be able to see how bias manifests on social media. The All Sides X influencer bias chart reveals bias ratings for individual X influencers as a first step to bring transparency to bias on social platforms. But bias ratings themselves aren't enough. Cultivating the ability to see bias in social media news and commentary itself is the way to avoid being manipulated. Very true. Very true. I mean, that's why personally, when I started doing the news about it's almost been 2 months, you guys. It's kind of cool. When I started back in May, I took a whole show segment to talk about the Smith Month Act and how I wanted to make sure that the news that I brought you guys was truthful so that you would have a good place to come to for your news and news sourcing. So I can see, how people can get dissuaded, right? Oh, nice. Clear. So now hopefully you guys can see all this stuff going on, the sensational spin, the word rock, two brutal truth bombs, shutting Mar down with cold hard numbers, right? Subjective qualifiers and sensationalism, and then more sensationalism. It's game over. Yes. So that's interesting. It says being a smart media consumer means learning how to see bias in any content you come across, whether in legacy news media or social media, so you can critically assess information and decide for yourself. Learn how to see bias in social media content and why it matters. Yeah. And it does matter because especially right now, even with the conflict going on with Israel and Iran, we have to be completely informed. We've definitely gotten to a point in our country where the divide is like, ooh, it's at a fever pitch. But I think the one thing that brought a lot of people together, even though people are still protesting it, is the whole deportation situation. Really looking at, okay, we need to shut down our border. And I think in the timing of how fast President Trump was able to shut down the border and get things reversed and get us back on course, right? People were very disheartened by the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party kept saying these things aren't happening. People are lying to you. And then when the truth came out, it's like, wow, and it's sad because the Democratic Party, they are still trying to hold on to, illegal immigrants and not respecting people who have come over here legally, while at the same time. And I'm like, they are an interesting party now because while at the same time they're still playing the blame game. They want to tell Trump, you can't order strikes when Obama ordered tons of strikes against people. It's like, I need you guys to really find your footing, Democrat Party. I don't think they've found their footing yet, but hopefully they will. So we're going to take a little bit of a break and cover some more news when we return on the other side. Thanks for joining us. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning on Unfiltered Vision News. So, Republican Vice President J.D. Vance on Friday, and this was, I guess, the 20th, met with troops who have been deployed in Los Angeles to quell protests against immigration raids as he accused Democrat state and city leaders of encouraging immigrants to cross the U.S. border illegally. Vance, who met some of the 700 U.S. Marines and 4,000 National Guard troops recently deployed to Los Angeles by President Donald Trump, also accused the Democratic leaders of failing to support law enforcement. And it's very true. I don't know if any, I mean, I showed, some of the videos, what have you, about what was going on in LA. But I don't know if you guys, just took the time to watch some of these protests, and they were getting up in the face of sheriffs and federal guardsmen as if they could. I mean, their own police had no control over the situation. People were just like, you're a Nazi, you're this, you're that. Point, throwing water bottles at them. I mean, throwing things at the police. I mean, I am in my 50s. I just wouldn't. I mean, granted, I have relatives that are, in law enforcement, and I just have respect for the law. It's just how I'm built. I just don't understand how these people were talking to the police as if they were nothing. I mean, it's wild to see these people and to see these videos where individuals are just like, you suck and you F you and this. I'm like, what is wrong with you? And the police aren't doing anything to them because the police have been told to stand down in California. They're not doing nothing to these people. I'm like, what? Really? There's just nothing. Nothing happens to these humans? Nothing? Okay. All right. And then you see how they don't know the difference between the National Guard, the Marines, and the sheriffs and the police. And they think they can just walk up to the National Guardsmen, and technically they can, because I mean, National Guard, they can't do anything really. The Marines can't do anything really either, but they can be triggered to if it gets volatile. And those are like trained military, like they are a whole step above the police. Like I said, people are wild in California. And I used to live in California in Orange County, which is about roughly an hour south. So even if I lived there now, I wouldn't be involved in anything going on in LA because I'd be smart enough not to live in LA because it's crazy. So in Los Angeles, June 20th, Reuters, Republican Vice President J.D. Vance, he met with them. Okay. All right, we're going here. So Trump deployed the California National Guard troops to Los Angeles early this month against the wishes of Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom to quell protests triggered by immigration raids on workplaces by Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents. A U.S. appeals court on Thursday let Trump retain control of California's National Guard. Trump's decision to send troops into Los Angeles prompted a national debate about the use of the military on U.S. soil and inflamed political tension in the country's second most populous city. Vance said the court's decision made clear that Trump's troop deployment was a completely legitimate and proper use of federal law enforcement. And see, there's only one other time that's happened in our nation's history, and that was in 1965 in Alabama when they were doing integration because it became a dangerous, heightened situation, and they wanted to make sure people were protected. They brought out the National Guard. LBJ didn't ask questions. He just sent the protection. So Vance gave no indication of when the Marines and National Guard would leave Los Angeles and hinted that they might stay in the city for some time. And I can totally understand that because if anybody saw those buildings and the damage that was done to the buildings, it was insane. The profanity just on the building, and people were peaceful protests. I was like, there's nothing peaceful about what you're doing. You're causing civil unrest in downtown Los Angeles. There are people that just want to get to work and go home. That's it. They just want to get to work safely and go home safely. And you've made it a completely unsafe environment. You've completely made it horrible for people that work in the downtown area with your protest, which is not a protest. Like I said, it's complete civil unrest. And I guess Vance, he accused Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass of failing to crack down on people in the city illegally and of failing to support local and state law enforcement. And that's completely true. They have treated Border Patrol and border enforcement as somehow an illegitimate force instead of what they are, which is the American people's law enforcement trying to enforce the American people's laws. That's it. That's totally it. So Newsom is tipped to mount a presidential bid in 2028. He could conceivably face against Vance. Diana Crofts Paleo, a spokesperson from Newsom, called Vance's claim categorically false. I don't think so. I think it's categorically true. We saw the damage. We saw the people out in the middle of the street not respecting law enforcement because at a certain juncture they said, hey, this is an unlawful assembly. You need to disperse. They wouldn't leave. Those aren't law-abiding citizens. Spokesperson, by the way. They were also, told not just to leave by disbursement, but there was something else that happened. And curfew. Yeah, they had a curfew that they had to be on, and they still wouldn't leave. So these people were not being lawful. They were not assembling lawfully, first of all, and they were told to leave. They wouldn't leave. Secondly, they had a curfew and still wouldn't leave. You lost control of the city, period. You lost control of the state, really, but the city definitely. So the governor has consistently condemned violence and has made his stance clear. He can condemn violence all he wants to. Doesn't mean people are listening to him. They have no respect for him. She cited posts Newsom made on X, including one on June 9th, when he said, foolish agitators who take advantage of Trump's chaos will be held accountable. And you know what their accountability was? Some of them were held for 24 hours. Some of them were held for 36 hours. Then they were released back on the street. That was the accountability, you guys. They let them out. That was their accountability. I'm like, really? Y'all are wild. Y'all are wild. Newsom has said Trump's deployment of troops exacerbated the protest, increased tensions, and is unconstitutional. Sir, when you stepped in and said he's got to remove the National Guard, you know what the people did to the detention center? They took over it again. They were throwing chairs at the ICE agents. The ICE agents were coming out, hitting them with rubber pellets and throwing tear gas. You know what that crowd did? They threw tear gas right back at them. Completely ineffective when the National Guard was removed for those ICE agents just to do their job. They were under severe attack. And you're saying it's Trump's fault? It's not Trump's fault. But it is the ACLU's fault. It's your fault. Definitely, Governor. Definitely. You and Karen Bass and all of the associations that you're involved with, especially, with No Kings. Yeah. You guys did this. You stirred the pot, and now you're paying for it. So Bass, the Los Angeles mayor, speaking at a press conference, said Vance has spewed lies and nonsense and called the deployment of troops a provocation that has spread terror and fear throughout our city. Okay, wait a minute. Let me read that again. It says Vance has spewed lies and nonsense and called the deployment of troops a provocation that has spread terror and fear throughout our city. That's okay. But that's what she said. Vance is about law and order, and he's vice president. Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom, they're not. They're not. They're definitely individuals who are about lawlessness, and that's what they wanted. They wanted lawlessness. And that's what they got. They got lawlessness. And it's sad because, our country is better than this. It really, really is. And we've been better than this for a long time. But unfortunately, we have individuals in positions of authority, and that authority can be taken away. We need to get off the couch, and people need to get civically engaged and move some of these people out of the way. Gavin Newsom, if he's trying to run for president in 2028, everybody will vote for anybody but him, because everybody's seen his track record, and he can no longer blame anybody else but himself. Like, he's making decisions that people don't like and they don't agree with. Like I said, I grew up in California, and to see its downfall, it's truly, truly sad. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will, finish up our Tell It All Tuesday. I definitely welcome some more comments for you guys, and I can read them here on the broadcast, so you can definitely be a part of the conversation. But thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, and we'll see you on the other side. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday, Eastern Standard Time. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols. And so we're in the last quarter of our show. And I wanted to bring up one more instance. We have been talking a lot about immigration and just the different things that are happening. In the last segment, we spoke about Karen Bass and Governor Newsom, and also J.D. Vance, who weighed in on, just the troops being deployed to California, Los Angeles in particular. So I wanted to pull this up because this has been happening. And it says, U.S. economy faces reckoning as some immigrants avoid workplaces. Well, why are they avoiding these workplaces? Because they're here illegally, because they committed a crime, right? There used to be a time in this country where if you were a business and you hired people there illegally, you suffered a fine. Some businesses got shut down, but you definitely suffered a fine. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but do you think, there should be a fine imposed on these businesses? And to see this person say freedom for farm workers, I'm like, okay, now I do know that there are people that come here on green cards, they do their farming, and then they go back to their home country. So what are we talking about here? If you're avoiding workplaces, you shouldn't be avoiding anything if you're here legally. If you are here legally, seriously, this is a non-starter conversation if you're here legally, but it isn't, because you're here illegally. That's what this is about. And that's in my opinion, it's the trickery in media and in certain spaces. They were like, oh yeah, migrant workers. No, they're here illegally. They are illegal aliens. They are here criminal, period. So it says 10 days after raids by federal immigration officials in Los Angeles set off a national protest movement, a Hispanic woman walks through the city's Canoga Park neighborhood. Canoga Park is nowhere near Los Angeles. Stop that. Can't stand it when people do that. It's like, seriously, it's like the distance. It's almost 2 hours away. Anyway, so she says she won't give her name for concern that she might risk trouble for herself or others. Why would you do what? What does that mean? In fact, she won't say much, but the quiet streets evoke a broader phenomenon sweeping the United States. Right now, we're hiding, she says, nothing that she's noting that she's a legal resident in a community where many others do not have government permission to live and work. We don't want to stand out. We, How is this a we thing if you're here legally and they're here illegally? Why are you harboring illegal people? See, that's a crime. That is a crime. You are willingly and knowingly helping people to commit a crime. It is crazy to me. And it makes no sense. Like, how are you doing this? And then okay, let's read on. So this is why why we wrote this. The impact of President Trump's deportation sweep is already being felt as workers stay away from work or fear of arrest. At stake is the future of both individuals and their industries, from farming to construction to restaurants. Like, do you see farming, construction? These are things that all Americans can do legally, no matter what their ethnic background. But see, we're not making this an ethnic issue. I see Congress making this an ethnic issue, and I see other state officials making this an ethnic issue, as if people that are from the Latin community are the only people on the planet doing farming, construction, and working in restaurants. Excuse me? No, absolutely not. There are other people here legally that can do the jobs. The problem is you don't want to hire them because you want to pay people slave labor wages. That's the issue. And I think that's the bigger, broader issue that I have when people do try to do these whole bleeding heart things. It's like, no. People are here illegally and they're being treated like slaves. Stop that. Are we trying to create another humanitarian crisis so that people can come back later? Oh, you didn't pay us what we were worth. Well, you came here illegally and you broke the law and you shouldn't have been here in the first place. No, they shouldn't have been paying you, but you shouldn't have been here. Y'all all need to go home. This woman isn't helping the situation. She's making it worse. Okay. And there's a lot of people out there like her making it worse. And in my opinion, you should be sent to federal prison for 20 years, no parole, for aiding and abetting criminal behavior. You know these people are here illegally and you're hiding them. Yeah, you can go. You can go to prison. I don't mind my taxpayer dollars paying for that. And then when you get out, you can't vote. How's that? So you lose everything. Good luck getting a job. Everything. You lose everything. Yeah, and eventually you can get your rights back. Eventually you can work again. Eventually. But would it have been worth it to hide people here that weren't doing right by the country in the first place? Like, what are you doing? It's crazy. Says President Trump pressures his promised mass deportation campaign, work sites, arrests in both rural areas and big cities are raising questions around the future of the U.S. workforce and its economy. Long reliant on immigrants, both in and out of lawful status, in one of its latest crackdowns, federal agents said they had arrested 84 unauthorized immigrants on June 7th at the Delta Downs racetrack near Vinton, Louisiana. While continuing to target Democrat-led cities, Mr. Trump has also noted that his immigration tactics are taking very good long-time workers away from the farm, hotel, and leisure sectors. It's unclear what effect, if any, the immigration crackdown has had so far on economic indicators. Well, here's the deal. Now that those people are out of the pocket, people can start applying for those jobs. It's up to the owners to hire people and give them the wages that they're supposed to. Now, if you're an employer and you've been paying somebody $7 an hour who's here illegally, but now you got to pay the person that's here legally $10 an hour, you got to come up off that $10, sir, ma'am. Stop saying that Americans don't want to work. It's that you don't want to pay Americans. Let's be clear on the conversation. I'm not feeling sorry for these people that are here illegally anymore. I'm looking sideways at the businesses that aren't hiring people here legally, because people that are here legally should get preference. I saw one of Cash, um, oh goodness, Cash Jordan. I was watching one of his videos and I should have downloaded it so you guys can see it. I might do it for tomorrow. But he was showing where in North Hollywood, California, one of the construction companies, I guess they sell different things, different materials for building houses. It was practically empty. And they were saying, yeah, you know, a lot of the illegal, but that's very telling. If it's pretty much empty, and nobody's coming to work, nobody's coming to pick up the materials, you hired that many illegal people that nobody's there. That's extremely telling. Okay. And not in a good way, in a bad way. Okay. It means that you don't want to pay people a livable wage. It means you've been paying people under the table for so long, you've gotten so used to it, you don't care anymore about America. Again, as I'm looking at the business owner sideways, because this is on them. It says, but while the impact of President Trump's deportation sweep may take time to register, uncertainty caused by policy shifts, muscular arrest, and deportations is already taking a toll. It's not taking a toll. They're getting violent criminals off the streets. Those are the people that they are going after. And sometimes they do have to go after whole families, because their whole family, even if they're not all involved, they're all under the same unit. And they have already been told, you need to leave the country, and they've refused to leave. Okay? Like, we got to, at a certain point, you have to just call a spade and be like, y'all got to go. It says, in a series of switchbacks over the past week, the Trump administration has announced ramped up arrest of unauthorized immigrants. Then, after some back and forth, it told Immigration and Customs Enforcement to pause arrests at farms, hotels, and restaurants, reported the New York Times. On Sunday, Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins posted on X that she fully supports deportations of every illegal alien. So they're still deporting people that are here illegally, right? They haven't gotten to the ones at the farm hotels. Like I said, the ones that ICE is going after, those are the ones that have already gotten the due process. They've gone through the court system, but they've refused to leave. So they're trying to get them to deport them. Okay, these are people that have completely overstayed. Now, the other ones that are here that may not be on ICE's radar, right? Why are you doing it illegally when you can get a green card? When you know what I'm saying? When you can get a working visa, like, what are you doing? See, you're doing wrong, and you're making it bad for everybody. And that's where I need people to get there, right? Stop trying to do this whole bleeding heart thing and making people believe that being a criminal is okay. It's not okay. It is not okay to be a criminal in the United States. Just for everybody out there, just so you know, I don't care how you came to this country. If you did not come here legally, you need to self-deport, go home, and do it the right way. Because if you don't, you spit on the face of every single person that immigrated or migrated here and did it the right way. It's just a slap in the face to them. And yes, it takes 5 to 10 years. And yes, the system is egregious. I don't think it's broken. It's long for a reason, because people need to be properly vetted. And if you don't want to wait in line, then don't come to this country. How's that? That's where I'm at. If you don't want to take the time to be a legalized citizen, don't come here. You should not be here. You do not care about law and order. Okay, you can stay in your own home country and build that up. How about that? Do that part. Go back home. Build up your own country so it looks like the United States. Get in government over there. Don't come here trying to destroy this country and making it look like back there. Okay, I've been to some neighborhoods and areas that I won't go in because it looks dangerous. Here in the United States, that should never be. Should never be. But anyway, we're going to close this broadcast. But thank you guys for joining me here today on Tell It All Tuesday. Tomorrow we will have our Women in Wellness Wednesday. Looking forward to that. But thank you so much again for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday, Eastern Standard Time. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will see you guys on the next one. Have a great day.